welcome to an episode of Mike Unfiltered. So this is a podcast or a mini podcast series, chats with you all, where I just cut the bullshit, to be quite honest. So let's get straight to it. So the first topic we're going to be looking at the effects of alcohol. Actually, I get asked quite frequently, can I have a few drinks? Can I drink in moderation or whatever? Or how much can I drink and how often can I drink? And what does alcohol do when I'm trying to build muscle or achieve those results? Well, effectively, alcohol isn't great for that, but we'll get straight into it. But does that mean that you need to be teetotal for the rest of your life? No, but we'll get into it. So let's look at a quick reality check. So if you're trying to build muscle, then at the same time as building memories, shall we say, the two aren't quite going to go together very well. Let's just say your biceps aren't going to get the same memo. So it is about moderation. Wow, big surprise, but it is about moderation. But let's get down to what the nub of what alcohol actually does to that muscle growth. So here's the deal. Basically, your body is basically like running a construction site. And when you are trying to ask your builders in your body to build that construction site, you need to supply it with the materials that it needs and the time that it needs to do that. If you went onto a building site to the builders, all building houses, and said, okay, so we need to build this house right now, and I'm only going to give you half the bricks that you need, and all half the resource materials you need. You're never going to have a lunch break. So in this instance, that'll be sleep. So you're never going to have a rest or never have a lunch break. You have to keep working non-stop, and you're only going to have half the resource and materials you need, and half the tools you need as well. The house isn't going to get built, is it? So now let's go onto that building site and say, okay, I'm going to give you all the bricks that you need, but what I'm going to do is I'm not going to give you the correct mortar, the correct sticky stuff, the cement stuff that sticks those bricks together. I'm not going to give you the correct mortar. I'm going to actually poison that mortar. I'm going to make that mortar just not effective at all. So it's going to look like mortar, it's going to feel like mortar, but it's not going to actually be sticky in the slightest, and have the qualities that it needs to hold those bricks together. Now you're going to have some with all the materials they need to build a house, but the bricks are all going to fall down and it's not going to go very well. So they're not going to be able to build the property again. This is your body. When you're drinking lots of alcohol, you're not giving your body the right type of building materials. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, like I just said, with the mortar becoming, shall we say, sabotaged, so the toxicity, you're now putting those builders in a position where they're trying to build something with toxic mortar, basically. So not only are the builders going to die out, everything they put together is going to fall to pieces. So your body's not going to, you're raising toxicity levels in your bloodstream as well if you are drinking regularly. You are creating an environment where your body is not going to be able to build the muscle tissue as it normally would with the materials that it needs. Even if you are giving it materials that it needs, but you're regularly, like I said, back to that analogy, if you are giving it all the protein and carbohydrates and fats in the world, everything that you need for that, and you're really, really good, but you're still drinking lots of alcohol, you're making the mortar toxic. It's not going to happen. So when I use that analogy, what is your body doing when it's building muscle mass? Well, we've all heard of it, protein. So that's one of our building blocks. So we're consuming protein. We're consuming carbohydrates with that as well. Carbohydrates are needed, ladies and gents. It'll be a topic another time, but it does really, really bug me when people say carbs are the enemy. They're just not. Carbs, proteins, fats, all those macronutrients and those micronutrients. Well, guess what? Newsflash, everyone. You need them all. You just need to get them in the right balance. Do you need to be spending all your life calorie counts and all that kind of stuff? No, you don't. Again, that's stuff I'm going to touch on quite often as well. So let's look at the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the fats, namely the proteins as well. So you need that protein in for muscle protein synthesis, for your muscles to build new muscle tissue, should we say. I'm trying to say this in a way that's a bit more plain English. So we need those builders to be able to build that. Okay, so you need to provide it with the right building materials and the right type of building materials. Now let's take that one step further. So when you've drunk lots of alcohol, some people say, oh yeah, I drank loads of alcohol, I came back really, really pissed as a fart that night, and I just whacked out straight to sleep. So you went to sleep quick. Did you get quality sleep? No, not in the slightest. You've also caused issues neurologically as well, temporary issues around the brain, where the brain is, again, its toxicity levels have been raised. It's not going to do very well at entering what we call those important levels of sleep, that restorative sleep. So your REM sleep, your stages 3, 4, 5 sleep cycles. So they're basically the deeper sleep cycles. So as you go through the night, your body sort of does this. If it was a graph that I was drawing here, it would be like a in and out of these sort of lighter sleep to somewhere in between to deeper sleep, then back into lighter sleep and so on and so forth. And most of your dreaming is done actually towards the latter stages, the latter part of your sleep, in terms of the duration that you're asleep for. So even if you whacked out in the night that completely just crashed and burned and slept for like 10 hours, chances are the quality of that sleep was not good. So you've now not given the builders the lunch breaks and the days off that they need to be able to actually build properly. So now you've got a building site with toxic mortar, not the materials you need, and a whole bunch of builders that are absolutely exhausted and knackered and have no idea what they're really doing. They're confused, dazed and confused. And you're expecting your body to build muscle, or those builders to build a good house. Are you crazy? So effectively, alcohol, too much of it, is not good at all. So we've talked about sleep, we've talked about not having the right materials, we've talked about making that mortar toxic. So what do I mean by making that mortar toxic? Well, let's get it to a biology perspective now. Let's transfer that analogy across. So alcohol consumption, it does also massively impact on your testosterone levels, male or female. So when you've drunk that alcohol, temporarily, obviously regular exposure to alcohol, so drinking a lot, will bring your testosterone levels down, potentially on a permanent basis. So you need to really be careful there. But let's stick with the casual drinking here and there. When you've had that drink, maybe it was a binge drinking night or just a few the night before or day before, we're that time of year. So when you've consumed that alcohol, it does temporarily drop your testosterone levels. As it's toxic as well, because it is a toxin in the body, it also raises your stress levels, your body's physiological stress response. So what does that do? Well, that raises your cortisol levels. So reduced testosterone and raised cortisol is really, really, really not conducive for muscle building. It completely turns that right down. If anything, it could potentially bring it into negative effects, especially if you pushed yourself in a weight session that same day or the day after, when you're just not allowing the builders time, rest and time to recover. And perhaps, another analogy, I like my analogies, clean up that building site before they carry on. As someone who worked in the trades for quite a while, you really can't work very well or very effectively with a messy workspace. So that's effectively what's happening. So you need to allow the builders time to clear out that site. And over time, that testosterone levels, that testosterone will come back up, the cortisol will go back down. So that's why also it massively impacts your sleep as well. I'm going to get to sleep a lot when I talk about health, physiological and psychological health. Sleep is just so unbelievably important. It's like it's up there. It's the number one thing with a few other things, but it is the top priority. So if you want to be building that muscle, again, that is another reason why you want to be very careful with your alcohol consumption. And again, it's in moderation. If you have had a drink, I will say it again, plan your training cleverly. Allow your body time to filter out and recover before you push yourself into a hard session again. Next. So calories and cravings with alcohol. I hear that a lot. That's why you go for the pizza or the kebab afterwards. So yeah, alcohol is very energy dense. It's also very sugar dense as well, depending on the drinks you're having, obviously. And it's a bit of a nutrition cosplay, really. So what I mean by that is it lowers your inhibitions as well, and suddenly you're not just having two drinks, you're also having one more. and more and more. And then obviously your pizzas, your kebabs after. You really are filling your body with, well, you're making that building site very, very messy, shall we say. Very, very messy. It's now impossible. Think of the builders now wading around in rubbish. They're just wading around the floor in rubbish. It's like so high, it's like halfway up that house they're building, you know, up the scaffold. It's everywhere. There's just that you can't even see the floor. You're just wading around in rubbish. They can't build. So you can't expect your body to be able to build as well. So again, if you plan your training smart, you keep it very much in moderation, or maybe even teetotal. It's completely up to you as what your lifestyle choice is. Lots of us drink alcohol on the odd occasion. I have a couple of beers every now and then. It's very rare for me, to be honest, but I do every now and then. You know, mainly for social reasons, for special occasions or celebrations or whatever, a bit of Prosecco or champagne or white wine or a couple of beers on the rare occasion. Yes, I do. And then when I do that, I plan my training accordingly. It will literally be the next day, it'll be more mobility, movement training, blowing off the cobwebs, as it were. And then the day after, I'll start to hit it a little bit harder. And the day after that, I'll be pretty much back to normal. During that time, I'll be eating healthy, drinking lots of antioxidants, lots of water, and all of that stuff to compensate and bring myself back. I very rarely have to do that, to be honest, because again, I very rarely touch alcohol. But when you do, just train smart. Let's get to the blunt truth of it. To wrap this video up, a lot of people say to me when I'm training, what do I do? Do I lift heavy? Do I do volume? Do I do this? Do I do that? Short answer, find through trial and error the best solution for yourself. Some research has shown there's been none of it's ever fact. It's always theory. And research always lends itself to support a particular theory one way or the other. What to support it, or is what we call in science to falsify it, falsification. So a theory that's made up, what I mean by that is a theory that's made up or created. If it passes through lots and lots of research, lots of tests, and you know these tests are there to try and falsify that theory, to prove it wrong, and it just doesn't get proven wrong, chances are it's as close to fact as you can get. It's what we call statistically significant. There's less than a 5% chance that it's that it's wrong, and that the data there's a less than a 5% chance for what we call statistical tests that the data you're getting out of your research studies is wrong, basically. So it's pretty robust, a lot of research. So there are some research studies that have pointed to repetition ranges between 5 and 30 reps, for example, as long as rep 5 is really difficult to finish. As long as rep 30 is really difficult to finish. No real significant difference in muscle gains between various groups, control groups, experimental groups, and so on and so forth. When they tested them, there was no real statistically significant difference in muscular hypertrophy of 5 or 30, between a range between 5 and 30 reps. How do I tend to treat that? So let's look at the legs. If I'm doing squats, I'm not going to be doing 30 reps. The heaviest weight I can do is 30 reps for 4 or 5 sets. One, I'm going to be there for about 6 hours. 2, very likely, I'm going to be puking halfway through because that is unbelievably exhausting, especially front-loaded squats. Those of you who do that will know exactly what I mean. Or let's look at Bulgarian split squats. 30 one leg, 30 the other. Yeah, all right. So what I tend to do there is I tend to do anywhere between 5 and 10, up to a maximum of 12 reps, depending on what I'm doing. So at the moment, I'm going for a block where I want to increase my muscular hypertrophy, but I want to focus on strength a little bit. So I'm doing a couple of sets where I'm doing less than 5 reps. And then when I'm looking at my hypertrophy sets, I'm doing around about 5 to 8 repetitions for a big exercise like squats. If I'm then doing leg extensions, for example, a smaller, more isolation exercise or isolation-based exercise, then I'll be doing higher rep ranges. I'll be doing 15, 20 repetitions, 25, sometimes 30 if I'm doing a drop set. I don't tend to do 30 reps on the same weight. I get bored. So I tend to make it a drop set instead. So I tend to be sort of quite, again, clever and savvy with those rep ranges. So the blunt truth is lift hard, lift heavy, and always push yourself to at least 1 rep in reserve. And what I mean by that is so that you're challenging yourself and your muscles and your nervous system enough so that to the end of that set, you'd be able to do 1 more rep at most, or you can push yourself to failure. Again, more research is showing that there's no real statistically significant difference in muscular hypertrophy gains. Strength, psychological strength, I would say, in terms of pain tolerance, then pushing yourself to failure is going to raise that higher than 1 rep in reserve. So, but if you're just looking at muscular hypertrophy and that's your main concern, then you can keep 1 rep in reserve typically, and you should be a-okay. So that's my first video podcast, mini podcast on alcohol and how it affects your exercise. And I finished off there on a little bit of planning, programming, and rep ranges, why they matter, and how to be savvy with that. And backed up a little bit of research. Have I said the research scientists and all that stuff? No. Go find it yourself. You'll find the research there. Be an independent learner, as I always say to my students. Take initiative, and you'll find you'll learn so much more. So again, any questions on muscular hypertrophy, strength training, nutrition, if you have any questions on the effects of alcohol on your training, then again, please do give us a shout, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible.